There was a smell that lived in certain bathrooms on the South Side, in certain kitchens in Memphis, in certain back porches in Atlanta, cocoa butter warming between two palms, a little witch hazel on cotton, something floral going soft in a glass bottle by the mirror. Nobody called it a routine. Nobody called it anything. It was just what a woman did before bed. And what she did before bed at 50 was not what the beauty counter was selling her. The beauty counter was selling youth in a jar with a foreign name on it. What she had was older than the counter, older than the company that owned it, and it worked in a way that took decades to prove itself. On her skin, in her joints, in the steadiness of her hands at 70. Nobody was studying her. Nobody was writing her down. But she kept doing it anyway, every night, the same way her mother did, the same way her mother's mother did before her. And now, 60 years later, the laboratories are finally catching up to the bathroom mirror. I'm Viola, and what I'm about to tell you, your grandmother knew this. The question is whether anyone told you. If this is your first time here, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button, because what we do on this channel every single week is dig up what was buried. Today, we're going into the 1960s, into the lives of Black women who were 50, 60, 70 years old, and who did not age the way the magazines said they were supposed to age. 25 things they did. 25 things the beauty industry either ignored, mocked, or quietly stole and repackaged. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, and let's get into it. Number 1. She warmed the cocoa butter first. Never straight from the tin, never cold against the skin. She'd take a small piece between her palms and rub until it went soft and glassy, until it smelled like something you wanted to eat. And only then would she touch her face. Cheeks first, then the throat, then the backs of her hands, the parts that toll on a woman first. Dermatologists today will tell you that cocoa butter is rich in fatty acids that support the skin's barrier, that warming it before application helps it absorb rather than sit on top like a mask. Nobody told her that in 1961. She just knew that warm went in and cold sat out, and she was not interested in anything that sat out. Number 2, rose water and glycerin mixed in a jelly jar that used to hold something else, kept on the sink where she could reach it without looking. She'd pat it into her skin. Never rub, never drag. Because dragging a rag across a woman's face for 40 years is how you get lines you didn't earn honestly. Glycerin pulls moisture into the skin and holds it there. Rose water calms what needs calming. She didn't know the chemistry. She knew the results. And the results were a woman at 65 whose skin still moved like it had somewhere to be. Number 3, the scalp massage every single week, without fail. Fingertips working slow circles from the hairline back, warm oil worked in section by section, patient in a way this generation rarely has time to be. Scientists in the last decade confirmed what she never doubted, that scalp massage increases blood flow to the follicle and can meaningfully improve hair density over time. She wasn't reading a journal. She was sitting in a kitchen chair on a Saturday, letting her daughter's hands do what her own mother's hands had done for her. Number 4, a spoonful of cod liver oil taken standing at the counter, swallowed fast with a chaser of orange juice because the taste never got easier, no matter how many decades she'd been taking it. It tasted like punishment, and it worked like medicine. full of vitamin D and omega-3s. Cod liver oil supports joint mobility and skin elasticity. Things that show up on the outside of a body only after they've been happening on the inside for years. She didn't take it because a doctor told her to. Half the doctors in her town wouldn't see her without a fight. She took it because her mother took it, and her mother's joints never gave out. Number 5, silk. Not cotton, not wool. Silk or satin wrapped tight around the head every single night, even on the nights she was too tired to do anything else properly. Cotton pulls moisture out of hair and drags across skin all night long. And a pillowcase that fights you for 8 hours leaves its mark eventually, in the hair and in the fine lines at the temple. She didn't need a study to tell her that friction ages a face. She could feel it in the morning, and she refused it night after night for 50 years. Number 6, she patted her face dry, never scrubbed it with the towel the way you might scrub a countertop. A wet face patted dry keeps its moisture. A wet face rubbed dry loses it, along with a little bit of the skin's give each time. This is not a complicated idea, and it is not one you will find advertised anywhere, because there is no product to sell attached to the instruction, "Be gentle with yourself." But she was every single day without being told to be. Number 7, turmeric mixed into a paste with a little honey, left on the skin until it went tight and dry. The women who used it caught looks from strangers who didn't understand the yellow stain that lingered for an hour after. She didn't care. Turmeric carries curcumin, which researchers now study for its effect on inflammation and skin brightness. The same brightness she was chasing with the spice from her own cabinet, while somebody downtown was charging $4 an ounce for the same promise in a different color jar. Number 8, buttermilk dabbed onto the skin and left to sit before rinsing clean with cool water. The lactic acid in buttermilk gently exfoliates, evening tone the same way the expensive chemical peels do today, minus the burn, minus the bill. She kept a little cup of it by the sink on wash day, and she never once called it a treatment. She called it Tuesday. Number 9, witch hazel on a cotton ball, swept across the skin after washing before anything else touched her face. It closed what needed closing and calmed what needed calming, and it cost less than a quarter at the corner drugstore in a decade when a jar of the fancy stuff downtown could run a week's worth of grocery money. She was not choosing witch hazel because she couldn't afford better. She was choosing it because it worked, and paying more for the same result never once struck her as wisdom. Number 10, she walked, not for exercise, nobody called it that then, but to church, to the beauty parlor, to the grocery, to a neighbor's porch to sit a while. Regular movement, low impact, done outdoors, done in community. We know now that consistent walking supports circulation, joint health, and even skin quality by keeping blood moving to every part of the body that needs it. She just knew that sitting all day made a woman old faster than anything else could, and she was not about to sit still and let that happen to her. Number 11, she ate slow and she ate less than you'd think, and Sunday dinner was the exception, not the rule. Portion discipline wasn't a diet plan with a name on it. It was just how the week was built, 6 days of modest eating around 1 day of abundance. Caloric moderation is one of the most consistently studied factors in slower biological aging And she was practicing it decades before anyone put a name to it, simply because that was how her mother had raised her to eat. Number 12, she kept her circle close and she kept it small. A handful of women she trusted with everything, seen weekly, if not daily, at church, at the shop, on the porch. Loneliness is now understood to accelerate aging at a cellular level, and isolation was never something she allowed herself, even when the world outside her front door made isolation tempting. She had women. She had somewhere to be seen and somewhere to be known every week of her life. Now I want to hear from you, family. What did the woman who raised you do for her skin that nobody talks about anymore? What did it smell like? What was in the jar on her sink? Drop her name in the comments right now. Let's give her flowers, because I promise you, somebody scrolling through this right now grew up with that exact same jar in that exact same spot. Number 13, she prayed every morning before anyone else in the house was up, sitting in the same chair with the same cup of coffee going cold beside her. That quiet time before the noise of the day, before anyone needed anything from her, is now something researchers describe in terms of cortisol regulation and stress reduction, the same stress that ages a body faster than almost anything else we know of. She called it her morning with the Lord. Science calls it a measurable intervention. Either way, it worked on her for 70 years. Number 14, warm water with lemon. First thing, before coffee, before food. Simple, cheap, and steady. Done every morning without exception. It supports hydration and digestion in ways that show up slowly over years, in skin that holds its color and its texture instead of turning dull and thin, the way skin does when a body runs dry too often. Number 15, apple cider vinegar, diluted and worked through the scalp after a wash, left a few minutes, then rinsed clean. It balanced what needed balancing and left the hair with a shine that no bottle from the drugstore could match. Not because the drugstore bottle didn't try, but because it was trying to imitate something that already worked better in its original form. Number 16, Vaseline. Plain, blue-jarred, unglamorous Vaseline worked into any patch of skin that dared to go dry. Elbows, heels, the corners of a chapped mouth in January. Dermatologists today call this occlusive moisturizing and recommend it as one of the most effective barriers against water loss in the skin. She called it common sense, and she kept a jar of it in every room of the house. Number 17, a wide-brimmed hat every time she stepped into the sun for longer than it took to walk to the mailbox and back. Sun protection wasn't a bottle with an SPF number on it in 1962. It was fabric and shade and the good sense to stay out of direct light in the middle of the afternoon. We know now that unprotected sun exposure is the single largest driver of visible skin aging. She knew it too, just in her own language, learned from a mother who'd learned it from a mother before her. Number 18. She was in bed by 9 most nights, and up before the sun without an alarm clock to force her there. Deep, consistent sleep is when the body does its repair work. Skin regenerates, inflammation settles, hormones reset. She never once called this self-care. She called it common decency to her own body, and she gave it to herself every single night without apology. Number 19, herbal tea in the evening, chamomile most nights, sassafras when her stomach was off. something warm and unhurried instead of anything with caffeine in it after 4 in the afternoon. It calmed her the same way it calms the women drinking it today for the exact same reason. Decades before wellness became a word anybody used. Number 20. Shea butter worked into the hands and feet before bed every night. The same ritual repeated so many thousands of times it became invisible to her, the way breathing is invisible. Fatty acids and vitamins in shea butter support skin elasticity in exactly the places that show age first. The hands, always the hands. She was protecting hers before anyone told her hands gave a woman's age away. Number 21. Greens, collards, mustards, turnip greens, cooked low and slow, eaten several times a week without fail. Loaded with antioxidants and vitamins that fight the kind of cellular damage that shows up eventually as dull skin and slow healing. Nobody in her kitchen was thinking about antioxidants. They were thinking about Sunday and about what their own mothers had always put on the table, and it turned out to be exactly what the research would eventually confirm decades later. Number 22, she kept her hands busy, quilting, mending, shelling peas on the porch. Fine, repetitive movement that occupied the mind as much as the fingers. That kind of engagement is now linked to better cognitive aging, to sharper minds held longer into old age. She wasn't doing it for her brain. She was doing it because idle hands made her uneasy. It turns out uneasy hands age better than idle ones. Number 23. Laughter real and frequent at the shop, on the porch, with the radio playing something with a beat in it. Joy is now studied as a legitimate factor in slower aging, tied to lower stress hormones and better cardiovascular health. She didn't need a study. She needed her friends, her music, and an excuse on a Friday evening, and she got all three regularly for the whole of her life. Number 24. Beeswax balm, made at home, kept in a tin, worked into lips and any rough patch that needed softening. Beeswax seals in moisture and protects against the kind of chapping and cracking that, left unattended for years, ages the skin around the mouth faster than almost anything else. She made her own because the store-bought version cost more and did less, and she had never once been interested in paying more for less. Number 25. Every single morning she told herself something true. Not a mantra, not an affirmation card, just a sentence. Said out loud or said quiet, reminding herself who she was and what she'd survived and what she still had left to do. We now understand self-talk and a sense of purpose to be genuinely tied to longevity. Women who feel useful, who feel needed, who feel that tomorrow has something in it for them, simply age differently than women who don't. She had survived things this country never apologized for, and she still woke up every morning believing she had somewhere to be. That belief aged slower than her skin did. 25 things, none of them expensive. None of them patented, none of them requiring a trip anywhere further than her own kitchen or her own backyard. And every single one of them, 60 years later, showing up in a study somewhere, confirmed by a researcher who will never know her name, proving what she never once doubted. Here's what I want you to sit with, family. She was never trying to look young. That was never the goal, and I need you to hear that, because it changes everything about how we understand what she was doing. She was trying to be well. She was trying to move through her 60s and 70s with joints that worked and skin that held, and a mind that stayed sharp enough to keep telling her own stories. The youth was a side effect. The wellness was the point. And somewhere along the way, an entire industry built itself on selling us the side effect, while staying completely silent about the point. They sold us youth in a jar and left out the parts that actually worked: the walking, the community, the sleep, the greens, the quiet mornings with a cup of coffee going cold. Those parts didn't fit in a bottle, so they didn't get sold. But they got passed down anyway, kitchen to kitchen, hand to hand, the same way everything that actually matters in this culture has always been passed down. Not written, passed down. She is still in your hands, family, every time you choose the slow way over the expensive way, the real way over the packaged way. Bring her back. I'll see you next time, family.